He raised his glass in a room full of millionaires, smirking right at me. "You know," he said, "for everyone to hear, you're just not as hot as her." Behind him, on a massive screen, his mistress was live streaming, flashing a new diamond. He pushed the divorce papers across the table, demanding I sign right there. They all thought I was broken. They didn't know he'd left me her password. My name is Amelia Flores. I'm 32 years old, and I work as a data analyst at Harborline Metrics. Tonight, I'm walking into the main ballroom of the Aurelia, a place so expensive it feels like breathing different air filtered through money and arrogance. The gilded invitation on my desk this morning, the one I'd stared at for an hour, had called this a 5-year anniversary and investor gala. 5 years. It felt like 100. The moment I passed the ridiculously oversized floral arrangement in the lobby, I know the invitation was a lie. My husband, Cole Rutherford, is already holding court. He's the CEO of Nova Helix Capital, and tonight he looks every inch the part a bespoke suit that probably cost more than my car. Teeth whitened to the point of absurdity, and that easy magnetic confidence that draws people in like moths. He's surrounded. He is always surrounded. Investors in tailored suits nod gravely at his words. Influencers I recognize from financial magazines laugh a little too loudly, and reporters, the sharks from the business journals, scribble in their little notebooks. Cole is the sun, and everyone else is just rotating around him, desperate for a little warmth, a little light. I used to be his planet. Now, I'm just a distant, cold rock he forgot was in his orbit. I step onto the plush carpet of the ballroom, and the atmosphere hits me. It's wrong. This isn't a celebration. It's a stage. The tables aren't set for cozy conversation. They're arranged in rows, all facing a raised dais at the front, like seating for a press conference. A massive cinema-sized LED screen, currently dark, looms behind the head table. A full camera crew, the kind you hire for a live broadcast, not a wedding anniversary, prowls the aisles. Their red recording lights are on. The camera flashes pop, catching the glitter on women's gowns, the glint of expensive watches, and then I see her. She's sitting at the head table, right next to Cole's empty chair. Sierra Blaine, the fitness influencer, the one whose half-naked photos started appearing in Cole's liked feed 6 months ago. She's poured into a dress made of what looks like liquid diamonds, her skin tanned to a deep bronze, her blonde hair extensions falling over one shoulder. She isn't sitting like a guest. She's sitting like a co-host, her hand resting near Cole's champagne flute, already claiming her territory. She's the main event. I feel the stares. I know some of these faces, men and women from the finance world, people who have shaken my hand at other, less theatrical events, people who used to ask my opinion on market trends. Tonight, their eyes aren't friendly. They slide over me with a morbid curiosity, a hint of pity, and in some cases, a cold amusement. They know something I'm supposed to find out. They're here for the show. The lights dim, except for a harsh spotlight that finds Cole as he stands, tapping his glass with a silver spoon. The ringing sound cuts through the murmur. "Friends," he begins, his voice booming through the speakers, smooth and practiced. "Partners, welcome." He raises his glass, a vision of success. Tonight is not just about celebrating the past. Tonight, he grins, is about new beginnings, a ripple of polite, knowing laughter. It's about having the courage to evolve, to grow, to shed the things that hold us back. His eyes scan the room, the charismatic preacher addressing his congregation. "It's about freeing ourselves," he continues, his voice dropping slightly, "from the relationships that, quite frankly, stifle our potential." The laughter is louder this time, less polite. It's the sound of a pack that smells blood. His eyes lock on mine. That spotlight, that terrible, hot white light, swings from him and finds me, pinning me in my seat. "Amelia," he says, his voice dripping with false affection. "Come on up, sweetheart. Join me." It's not a request. It's a command. The room is silent. Every head turns. I feel the burn of hundreds of eyes as I stand. My legs feel heavy. my simple black dress suddenly feeling cheap and inadequate under the glare. I walk the long aisle between the tables, my heels sinking into the carpet, each step an eternity. I reach the dais. He doesn't offer me a hand. He doesn't move to hug me. He just watches me climb the 2 short steps. I stand there, exposed. And then, in one smooth, practiced motion, he slings his arm not around me, but around Sierra Blaine, who has stood up beside him. He pulls her into his side. Her sequined dress scraping against his suit jacket, she beams, a picture of adoration. Cole keeps his arm around her. He leans into the microphone, and he looks directly at me. "Emilia," he says, his voice a cold, clear blade in the silent room. "I think it's time I was with someone hotter." He pauses, letting the word hang in the air, letting the cruelty land. "You know who I'm talking about." The room explodes, not in gasps, but in laughter. A sharp, barking laugh from the investors, a high-pitched titter from the influencers. Phones are raised, dozens of them, their small red lights winking at me. They are recording this. They are documenting my humiliation. Live. I don't look at Sierra. I keep my eyes on Cole. His face is a mask of triumph. He thinks he's just delivered the killing blow. From the shadows beside the stage, a man I don't recognize steps forward. He's carrying a thick, leather-bound folder. He's not one of our lawyers. He must be one of them. He places the folder on the table in front of me and opens it. Inside, there must be 50 pages of dense legal text and sticky notes, bright, fluorescent pink and yellow sticky notes, covering the pages, pointing arrows at dozens of signature lines. "Sign tonight, please," Cole says. His voice has lost all its party charm. It's flat. It's business. "Let's keep it clean. No need to drag this out. Make it messy for the lawyers." He leans in, so close I can smell his expensive cologne, the one I bought him for our 3rd anniversary. "I've been very generous with the asset division," he whispers, and the way he says generous makes it sound like a threat. I look down at the top page. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The sting is sharp. The ache of betrayal is a physical weight in my chest. But underneath it, something else. Something I've been nurturing for weeks. A core of ice. They are all watching me. The whole room, waiting for the tears, waiting for the screaming, waiting for the satisfying drama of the broken wife. I know what's in these papers, but I also know what's not in them. I know about the emails he thought he deleted. I know about the offshore accounts he thought I was too stupid to find. I know the real reason he needs this divorce pushed through tonight. I look up from the papers, past his lawyer, past his mistress, and I meet Cole's cold, expectant gaze, and I smile. It's not a big smile, just a small, precise lift at the corners of my mouth. I don't cry. I don't raise my voice. I can see the flicker of confusion in his eyes. I see the ripple of disappointment move through the front row tables. This wasn't the show they paid for. "Do you have a pen?" I ask, my voice surprisingly steady. The lawyer fumbles, offering me a heavy gold-plated fountain pen. I ignore it. I reach into my own small clutch, a simple beaded bag, and pull out my own pen, a cheap, black ballpoint pen from my desk at Harborline. I don't read the documents. I already know what they say. I just flip the pages. Emilia Flores. I signed. Emilia Flores. I signed up again. My hand is perfectly still. The cheap ink flows smoothly on the expensive paper. I signed away our house. I signed away our joint accounts. I signed away 5 years of my life. When I get to the last page, I click the pen closed. I close the heavy leather folder. I slide it back across the polished table to the lawyer. "There," I say, my voice carrying in the quiet. "All done." The table is silent. They look stunned, disappointed. Cole scoffs. A small, irritated sound. The show is over. He's already turning away, dismissing me as a problem solved. He claps an investor on the back, the spotlight swinging back to him, the engine of the party roaring back to life. Sierra is glowing, accepting quiet congratulations from a woman nearby, as if she just won a prize. I am invisible again. I step down from the dais. No one watches me go. I walk back to the table where I was supposed to sit, but I don't stop. I just retrieve my clutch from the empty chair. I walk out of the ballroom, through the opulent lobby, and into the cold night air. The valet rushes over, but I wave him off. I need to walk. I open my clutch. My fingers brush against my lipstick, my single house key, and a small, square piece of paper, folded 4 times. I don't need to look at it. I know it by heart. I found it 3 weeks ago, after the first time I smelled Sierra's perfume on his suit. It had fallen out of his notepad in his home office. His handwriting, a quick, arrogant scrawl. Sierra Main Skylines, Queen 92. The password, to her email, to her social media, to the cloud storage where they kept their plans. Cole thinks he just humiliated me. He thinks he just won. He thinks he's being generous by leaving me with a fraction of what we built. He has no idea what he really left me. I grip the small piece of paper in my hand. You shouldn't have left me this, I whisper to the empty street. You really shouldn't have. The man who put me on that stage tonight wasn't the man I married. He wasn't even the man I met. 6 years ago, I walked into a stale conference room at the Westbridge Tech Summit. It was all fluorescent lights and lukewarm coffee. I was there to network for Harborline, and he was just another face on a panel. Another mid-level investment advisor in a slightly too large suit. Cole Rutherford. He wasn't the star. Not by a long shot. He was just a guy with a passionate, slightly desperate energy, talking about democratizing finance and financial freedom for the little guy. His ideas were earnest, and I remember thinking they were also probably unprofitable. After his panel, I'd been cornered by some crypto bro trying to explain the blockchain to me, a data analyst. I was looking for an escape when Cole walked over. He'd overheard me try to explain statistical risk, and he rescued me. That was a sharp take on predictive modeling, he said, handing me a bottle of water. Most people here just want to talk about moonshots. He was the first man I dated in ever who didn't get a glazed-over look the second I mentioned my job. He actually listened. That first night, at a noisy hotel bar, I found myself explaining the systemic risks I saw in new peer-to-peer lending models. He didn't just nod. He asked follow-up questions. He took notes on a cocktail napkin. He saw the dry part of me, the part that lived in spreadsheets and saw stories in numbers, and he called it brilliant. I was hooked. We started dating. Our life wasn't the Aurelia. It was 2-for-1 pizza deals on his worn-out sofa. It was late at night in our tiny, drafty apartment. 2 laptops side by side on the coffee table. I'd be finishing a project for Harborline, and he'd be debugging the code for his first algorithm, frustrated and ready to quit. Just look at the error log. Cole, I'd say, leaning over. The data is telling you where you're wrong. He'd talk for hours about his dream. He wanted to build an investment fund, but an ethical one, Nova Helix, he called it, a new star. He said it would help ordinary people, the people Wall Street ignored, build real wealth. I believed him. I believed in that dream so much. I poured my own energy into it. We got married in my hometown in Ohio. It wasn't a gala. It was in the backyard of my parents' house. My dad and uncles hung up strings of lights. My mom baked the cake. We had 120 guests, a local band, and barbecue. It was simple, it was real, and it was ours. When we said our vows, I wasn't marrying a future CEO. I was marrying Cole, my partner, my best friend. I felt, for the first time in my life, like I was truly part of a team. The first 2 years of our marriage were a blur of work. I kept my full-time job at Harborline Metrics. Its steady salary and health insurance paid our bills. And at night, I became Nova Helix's unofficial, unpaid chief analyst. Cole would bring home raw data from his few small clients, and I'd spend hours I didn't have cleaning it, building predictive models, and writing the risk assessment reports that made his tiny fund look professional and sharp. I can't ask you to do this, he'd say, looking guilty as I brewed coffee at 11 at night. It's not asking, I'd reply, kissing his temple. It's family. We don't need to count the hours. We're building this together. I truly believed it. I was building our future. What I didn't realize was that I was just building his. Then came the turning point. It wasn't the ethical investments that made us. It was a gamble. A hugely over-leveraged bet on a volatile crypto asset, tied to a shady offshore real estate development. I had actually warned him against it. I'd run the numbers. Cole, I'd said, the risk exposure on this is insane. 95% chance it goes to zero. It's a black box. He'd smiled, patting my hand. That's why you're the analyst. You see the risk. I see the opportunity. He was right. The 5% chance hit. The deal didn't just pay off. It exploded. It brought in millions, then tens of millions. Suddenly, Cole Rutherford wasn't the earnest guy from the conference. He was the visionary who'd seen the future. He was the rising star on the cover of Westbridge Business Quarterly. Our life changed. It was like a switch was flipped. We went from our old, reliable Civic to a garage holding a black Range Rover and his silver Porsche. The drafty apartment was sold. We moved into a cold glass and steel mansion in Highland Ridge, a place with an infinity pool and an Echo. His suits were no longer off the rack. His watches cost more than my annual salary. We were taking strategic weekend trips on private jets with investors, spending nights on yachts that felt less like homes and more like floating banks. Cole changed. Or maybe he was just revealed. He started using the word image a lot. We have to maintain the image. He stopped talking about value. He stopped talking about the little guy. Through it all, I was the constant, the anomaly. I kept my job at Harborline. I drove my 8-year-old sedan to my office in the city every day. It grounded me. It was real. The sterile mansion in Highland Ridge never felt like home. When the first big wave of money came in, I sat him down. This is amazing. Cole, I'd said, excited. We can do so much. We can pay off my parents' mortgage. We can finally start that scholarship fund we talked about back in Ohio. He'd looked at me like I was quaint. That's not how this works. He had his hand on his new, ridiculously expensive espresso machine. You don't get rich by giving money away. We let the money make money. Wait a few years. We'll be able to buy your parents 10 houses then. He'd laughed. He never brought it up again. And then came the first real red flag. The one I should have seen. The one I papered over. We were at a fundraiser, one of those $1,000-a-plate dinners. An older, very powerful investor I knew from my work at Harborline came over to our table. He smiled at me. Amelia, I read your last quarterly report on bond market volatility. Brilliant stuff. I sent it to my whole team. I felt a flush of pride. Thank you, sir. Before I could finish the sentence, Cole's hand was on my back, a heavy, proprietary weight. He laughed, a smooth, charming sound. She's incredible, isn't she? He said, pulling me closer. This is my wife, Amelia. She's in data, incredibly supportive. He'd done it. In one sentence, he erased my credentials, my expertise, my name, and reduced me to a supportive wife who does data. The investor's gaze shifted from me to Cole, and they started talking. I was no longer part of the conversation. I was an accessory. I noticed it more and more. He loved telling the self-made man story, the story of how he built Nova Helix from nothing. He conveniently left out the thousands of hours I'd poured into it. He left out the fact that my salary had kept us afloat for 2 years. He left out that his first brilliant models were, in fact, mine. I told myself it was just ego, that all successful men were like this. A little arrogant, a little prone to showboating, especially with new money. I told myself the man I married, the one who loved debugging spreadsheets and eating pizza on the sofa, was still in there, just buried under a lot of expensive tailoring. I kept loving the ghost. I kept believing in the lie. I let the small cuts and tiny humiliations slide, because facing the truth was too terrifying. The truth was, my husband, the idealist, had been consumed, and the man who was left was a stranger who, I was beginning to suspect, didn't just see me as supportive. He saw me as disposable. The shift began subtly. It started with Sweat. About a year ago, Cole announced he was joining Ascend, an obscenely expensive gym that was less about fitness and more about being seen. It was a chrome and glass temple for the wealthy and the influencer adjacent. I had to look up the membership fee, and it was more than my monthly mortgage payment on the condo I'd owned before we met. A CEO has to look like a CEO on a magazine cover, he'd explained, rubbing a thumb over his almost flat stomach. Image, it's all part of the brand. He wasn't wrong. But this place was all beautiful. Hungry people in tiny, expensive outfits, taking selfies in front of the logo. His new fitness routine immediately rewrote our schedule. Or at least, that was the excuse. His days started earlier. 6 a.m., spin class with the VP of Goldman, and they ended later. 7 p.m., sauna meeting with a tech founder. I'd be in bed reading when he'd finally come home around 10 or 11, smelling not just of sweat and soap, but of a different, cloying cologne I hadn't bought him. Then the trip started. The necessary travel. He was never home on weekends anymore. Going to Miami, closing the fund, he'd text from the private jet tarmac. Quick trip to Austin, strategic partners, then Vegas, for a fintech conference that seemed to involve more nightclubs than keynotes. The weekends, which used to be ours even just to collapse on the sofa and order takeout, were now fully booked. I was a CEO's wife, which I was quickly learning was a synonym for single woman with a joint bank account. I started checking his Instagram. I hated myself for it. I'm a data analyst. I look for patterns. His feed was the beginning of a disturbing trend. It used to be photos of us hiking, charts of his first successful algorithm, which was actually my algorithm, our old apartment. Now, it was a curated stream of the entrepreneurial lifestyle, as his new stylist called it, yachts he was inspecting, rooftop bars, bottles of champagne with sparklers, and in the tags, one name kept appearing, over and over, Ciara Blaine Fit, a woman with a surgically tiny waist, impossible curves, and millions of followers who watched her do squats. Here she was on the deck of a yacht in Miami, the same one Cole was supposedly negotiating on. Here she was at a conference in Austin, tagged in a group photo right next to him. The pattern was emerging, and it made my stomach clench. I met her in person about 7 months ago, at a black tie charity fundraiser for the Children's Hospital. The irony was suffocating. Cole and I arrived together, but he was instantly swallowed by a crowd of men in tuxedos, leaving me to clutch my wine and pretend to look interested in the silent auction items. I saw her across the room. She was wearing a red dress that looked like it had been spray-painted onto her body. She wasn't just talking to Cole. She was touching him. Her hand was flat on his chest, her head tilted back, laughing a high, tinkling laugh at something he'd said. He wasn't pulling away. He was leaning in. When I finally walked over, the silence that fell was immediate. "Oh," Cole said, looking slightly trapped. "Emilia, this is Ciara Blaine. She's a force in the fitness branding space." Ciara turned her bright, vacant smile on me. It didn't get anywhere near her eyes. Her gaze flickered over my perfectly appropriate, conservative blue dress, my simple jewelry. "Oh, hi," she said, her voice a high, breathy thing. She barely looked at me for a second before turning her full, undivided attention back to my husband. "You are just a genius. Cole, everyone at Ascend thinks so." She didn't shake my hand. She didn't acknowledge my existence beyond that first, "Hi." In her eyes, I wasn't a person. I was the generic wife package, the obstacle, the before picture. The ride home in the Range Rover was heavy with silence. The city lights smeared past the tinted windows. I stared out, my reflection a pale ghost on the glass. "She seemed nice," I said. "Fishing." Cole grunted, his eyes on the road. "She's good for business. Connects me to the influencer investor crowd. It's a whole new vertical." "She was touching you a lot," I said, trying to keep my voice light. casual. He sighed. It was a heavy, exasperated sound, the one he'd perfected over the last year. Don't compare yourself to people like Sierra. It's not a good look. Those people live on the internet. It's not real life. I relaxed. Just a fraction. He was right. It was silly. I was being paranoid. He turned onto our street, the imposing black gates to Highland Ridge sliding open. He put the car in park in our massive, empty garage, the silence of the engine's death ringing in my ears. Though, he said, shutting off the headlights, plunging us into darkness. He looked over at me, his profile just a shadow. She is hot. You have to give her that. It wasn't a compliment to her. It was a judgment on me. After that night, the bottom fell out of our intimacy. He moved into the guest room, the one with the better view. I'm stressed. He'd snap when I tried to talk to him, when I tried to touch his arm as he walked past. I have billions of dollars of other people's money on my shoulders. I can't sleep with you worrying about my snoring. I need perfect rest. When I tried to get close, he'd flinch. I just need space, he'd say. Is it me? Is something wrong? I asked, my voice small, desperate, the very sound of it making me hate myself. And then came the pivot, the cruel reversal that stole my breath. Jesus, Amelia, he'd sigh, running a hand through his expensive, newly styled hair. Why are you being so needy? This pressure, it's not helping. I need a partner, not another responsibility. Needy. The word hit me like a slap. The woman who paid our bills for 2 years while he chased a dream. The woman who still worked a 50-hour week at Harborline. I was needy. He hired the stylist full-time, a thin, severe-looking man who looked at our wedding photos in the hallway with mild disgust. We need to elevate the brand. Cole, I overheard him say, your personal life is your brand. The next day, I was scrolling Instagram and I felt a jolt. A picture of Cole and me from our honeymoon in Italy gone. A photo of us, laughing, covered in mud from a charity run 4 years ago gone. He was methodically deleting me, erasing the before pictures. The entrepreneur lifestyle didn't include a supportive wife in an old t-shirt. It only included solo shots on jets and group shots with influencers. I was falling apart, and I couldn't hide it. I was at lunch with Nina, my best friend from Harborline. She's a fellow analyst, sharp as a tack, and she sees through everyone's bullshit. I was picking at a salad, trying not to cry into my iceberg lettuce. I told her everything, the trips, the gym, the deleted photos. She put her fork down. Amelia, she said, her voice flat, I'm going to say this as your friend. This is not okay. Men can get rich and not turn into sociopaths. They can be successful and still be decent. This what you're describing? She shook her head. This is bad. This is a 5-alarm fire. I did what I always did. I defended him. You don't understand. Nina, the pressure he's under is immense. He's just stressed. He's not thinking straight. He's still the man I married. Underneath it all. Nina just looked at me, her eyes full of pity, which was almost worse. No, he's the man he's showing you he is. You just don't want to see it. I didn't want to see it, until I couldn't ignore it. It was a Tuesday. He was actually home. He'd been in his office, the glass-walled box that overlooked the city, for hours. I brought him a drink, a whiskey, neat, just how he liked it. He was on the phone, laughing. Yeah, babe, of course. I'll see you Friday in Miami. I'll handle the ballast. He saw me. His face hardened. Gotta go. He hung up. Who is Babe? I asked. My voice was shaking. A client? Amelia? You're paranoid. Who is the ballast? Ballast. A heavy weight. Something you throw overboard to move faster. He stood up, towering over me. It's just business speak. You wouldn't get it. Are you sleeping with her? Cole? The words were out before I could stop them. Are you sleeping with Sierra Blaine? His face went from annoyance to pure, cold rage. It happened so fast. He looked at the glass in his hand. He looked at me. And then he threw the glass. It didn't hit me. He wasn't aiming for me. He aimed for the wall, right beside my head. The sound of shattering crystal echoed in the huge, empty room. Amber liquid and sharp fragments sprayed across the white marble floor. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. He stepped toward me, his voice a low, vicious growl. "You want to know," he hissed. "You really want to know. Let's say I was cheating. Who do you think I would pick? Amelia, you, with your sad spreadsheets and your sensible shoes, or someone who's actually hot, like Sierra?" He left me there, shaking, surrounded by glass. He went to the guest room, his room, now, and I heard the heavy click of the lock. That was the night the last ember of love finally died. That was the night I stopped making excuses. Nina was right. I was seeing him clearly now. The question he'd thrown at me, the cruel, hypothetical choice it kept ringing in my ears. You or someone hot like Sierra? He hadn't answered the question. He hadn't needed to. Our house, the glass palace in Highland Ridge, had been cold for a long time. But now, it wasn't just cold. It was dead. It wasn't a home. It was a high-end hotel I was temporarily staying in, waiting for checkout. And I knew, standing there with the smell of whiskey stinging my eyes, that I had no proof, just a gut-wrenching, soul-crushing certainty. I had nothing but my pain. I had nothing. Until the day he got careless. It happened 3 weeks after the night he shattered the whiskey glass. 3 weeks of living in a silent, frozen tundra, coexisting in a house that no longer felt like mine. It was a Tuesday morning. Cole was running late. A rare crack in his perfectly managed image. I could hear him from the bottom of the stairs, cursing in his glass-walled office, the sound sharp and ugly in the quiet of the Highland Ridge mansion. "Just be there in 5 minutes," he snapped into his phone, presumably at his driver. He stormed out of the office, shrugging into a $5,000 suit jacket, his face a mask of irritation. "Where is my—" he muttered, scanning the marble console table. He grabbed his keys, his phone, and his black moleskin notebook. As he turned to the door, his phone buzzed. He juggled it, and the notebook flew from his grasp. Landing hard on the floor, it splayed open, spilling a flurry of receipts, business cards, and loose notes. "God damn it," he snarled, crouching. He angrily shoved most of the papers back between the covers, too hurried to be neat. "I don't have time for this. The driver is waiting." He stood, straightened his tie, and stormed out the front door, slamming it so hard I felt the vibration in the soles of my feet. He left a mess. He always left me to clean up his messes. I waited. I counted to 60, just to be sure he was gone. The sound of his car pulling away. I walked over to the mess he'd left on the floor, a receipt for dinner at a hotel I'd never been to, a claim ticket from a dry cleaner, and then a small square of paper, torn from a notepad, that had slid partially under the edge of the console table. I picked it up, his handwriting, hasty, arrogant, and perfectly clear. Sierra, mail/IG banking Skylines, Queen 92. My breath hitched. I read it again. Mail, IG, banking. It was a password. The password. Below it, 2 other words, almost an afterthought. Heliotrust Offshore. I stood there, my hand gripping the small piece of paper, my knuckles white. The world seemed to shrink and sharpen, focused on the ink. Banking. He was so arrogant, so dismissive of everyone's intelligence, mine. Hers, that he'd written down her banking password and carried it around in his pocket. This was it. This was the line. For 3 weeks, I had been a ghost, haunting my own life, armed with nothing but suspicion and the memory of his cruelty. To do this, to log into her accounts, was a violation. It was a step into a darkness I'd never allowed myself to entertain. I was a person who respected data, who believed in privacy, who solved problems with logic, not by spying. But the man who wrote this note wasn't the man I'd made those promises to. The man I'd made those promises to was gone. The man who was left had called me ballast. He had compared me to her, to my face, and found me lacking. He had threatened me in my own home. This wasn't about marital privacy anymore. This was about survival. He had accused me of being needy and paranoid. The need to know the truth, the absolute, unfiltered truth, suddenly became a physical force. It was stronger than my ethics. It was stronger than my fear. I didn't use the computer in his office. I didn't use the shared laptop in the kitchen. I went to my own small study, the one room in the house that still felt like mine, and took out my personal laptop, my work machine, secure, encrypted, and completely separate from his world. I booted it up. The quiet hum was a comfort. I opened a new browser. I clicked New Incognito Window. The screen went dark, anonymous. My heart was a hammer against my ribs, my fingers, usually so quick and precise on the keyboard, felt thick and numb. I needed her email address. I paused. A fitness influencer. I typed in Sierra, Blaine, FitGmail.com. The login screen appeared. My hand was shaking. I typed the password. Skylines Queen 92. I hit enter. Incorrect password. My stomach dropped, but the note said, Sierra Main. Of course, her main account. I tried again. Username, Sierra Maingmail. Com. Password Skylines. Queen 92. I hit enter, loading inbox. I stopped breathing. The blue loading bar filled, and then I was in. The inbox was a digital map of my husband's other life. It was so much worse than I imagined. There were hundreds of emails from Cole. Hundreds. I saw the subject lines, the planning for the Miami trips, the reservations, the flirtations. I ignored them. I wasn't here for the sex. I was here for the money. I scanned the sender list, and my blood ran cold. There were emails from lawyers, not our lawyers, a firm I'd never heard of, one specializing in offshore corporate structuring. There were emails from banks, not our local bank, banks with names I'd only seen in white papers on money laundering, Helio Trust, banks in the Caymans, banks in Switzerland, and then the attachments. I clicked on an email from one of the lawyers. The subject FW signatures required. Helio Trust. I opened the attached PDF. Private loan agreement. I scrolled to the last page, to the signature block, and I saw my name, Emilia Flores. It was a digital signature, a near-perfect forgery of my handwriting. I had never seen this document in my life. It was a loan for $2 million. I clicked another, and another. Investment guarantee. Asset transfer consent, all bearing my name, all signatures I never made. I felt dizzy. Sick. I clicked over to a new tab. Instagram. I typed in the handle from his tagged photos, Sierra Blaine Fit. I clicked log in. Username, Sierra Blaine Fit. Password Skylines Queen 92. He was a creature of habit. The arrogance of it. I was in. I was looking at the backside of her perfect, curated, million-follower life. I clicked the message icon. The DMs. There he was. Cole. An endless, scrolling conversation. My eyes scanned the text. The casual cruelty of it. Cole babe. Stuck at another one of these charity things with the ballast. Sierra. Ugh. Poor baby. Does she even know what fun is? She's so beige. Cole beige is a good word. Don't worry. She's too busy with her little data job to even notice what's happening. She hasn't looked at our real finances in years. Ballast. The word from the phone call. The heavy weight you cut loose to move faster. They were laughing at me. Laughing at my job. The job that paid for his dream. I kept scrolling down, my stomach twisting, and then I saw it. An image. A screenshot. It was from Sierra. Sierra babe. Is this the account you were talking about, the Emilia one? I clicked the image. It expanded. It was a screenshot of an investment portal. Helio Trust. Account holder. Emilia Flores. And right there, plain as day, was the account identifier. My social security number. He had given my social security number to his mistress. He had opened a massive, multi-million-dollar offshore account in my name, using my stolen identity, and was discussing it with her over an Instagram DM. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. This wasn't just adultery. This wasn't just identity theft. This was a setup. I clicked back to her email inbox. My hands were steady now. The shock had burned away, leaving something cold and hard in its place. I typed Amelia into the search bar. One result. It was pinned to the very top of her inbox, from Cole Rutherford. Subject, the plan. After we're rid of E, that was me. I opened it. It wasn't a long, emotional letter. It was a document, a timeline, a business plan for my destruction. Month 1. Initiate generous divorce proceedings. E must sign quickly. Make her feel like she's winning. Month 2. Finalize asset separation. Move all clean assets to the new fund. Month 3. Trigger Helio Trust default. All high-risk toxic assets currently held in E's name. Month 4. Investigation begins. E takes the fall. It was all there, a detailed, step-by-step guide. He wasn't just divorcing me, he was using me. He was parking all his riskiest, most illegal trades in offshore accounts forged in my name. When the inevitable crash came, when the regulators finally caught up, the investigation would lead straight to me, the ballast, the needy, paranoid wife, the brilliant data analyst, who must have gotten greedy and tried to run her own shadow fund. He'd be the victim, the poor husband, betrayed again. He was planning to leave me with millions in debt, a ruined reputation, and probable jail time. This was financial murder. I thought I would collapse. I thought I would shatter. But a different feeling took over. The shock solidified, crystallized. It turned into something I hadn't felt in years. It turned into pure, cold, analytical rage. I did not cry. I did not scream. I stood up, walked to the closet in my study, and took out my 2-terabyte external hard drive, the one I used for backing up my most complex data models. I plugged it into my laptop. The small blue light blinked on. I went back to Sierra's inbox. I found the export function. I clicked Export All Mail. I went to her Instagram. I found a tool to archive the entire DM history. I started the download. I went back to the Helio Trust portal. I logged in as Amelia Flores, using the password for Sierra's other accounts. It worked, and I started downloading every transaction log, every wire transfer, every forged signature. I watched the progress bar crawl across the screen, a thin line of blue light. Cole thought he was marrying a beige, supportive wife. He forgot what I actually did for a living. I find patterns in chaos. I follow the data, and the data was telling me a story of grand larceny. As the files copied over, a single, sharp thought cut through the anger, clear as a diamond. If I have her password, I whispered to the empty room, how far can I really go? He'd given me the key to his mistress's life. He didn't realize he'd just given me the weapon to end his. The password was a skeleton key, Skyline's Queen 92. It not only opened her email and her Instagram, it opened the door to the bank he'd named on the note, Helio Trust Offshore. The portal was sleek, anonymous, and designed to reassure clients that their money was invisible. I found the login link. I used the email address from Sierra's inbox, S. Blaine Partner, heliotrust.com. I typed in the password. It didn't work. I tried again. My own name. Flores Partner, heliotrust.com. I was in. My stomach hollowed out. He hadn't just used my name. He'd created an entire corporate identity for me. I was a partner in an offshore entity I'd never heard of. The dashboard was simple. One account. Account holder, Amelia Flores. Current balance, $12 million. $400,000. It wasn't real money. I knew that. I work with numbers. This was a holding tank. I clicked on the Documents Contracts tab. My hard drive was already spinning, downloading everything. I opened the first file. Private Debt Guarantee. I read the terms. It was a guarantee, signed by me or a terrifyingly accurate digital forgery of my signature personally backing a $20 million investment in a Cayman fund. The terms were brutal. If the fund defaulted, the guarantor, Amelia Flores, was responsible for the entire principal, plus fees. I opened another. Secured loan agreement. My signature again. This time, I had apparently borrowed $3 million, secured against all personal assets. I kept clicking, kept downloading. It was a digital graveyard, and every tombstone had my name on it. He had packaged every high-risk, toxic, and likely illegal investment Nova Helix was making and parked it here, under my identity. When this house of cards collapsed, when the music stopped, I wouldn't just be the one left without a chair. I'd be the one buried under the rubble of the entire building. But the true map of his intentions wasn't in the bank records. It was in Sierra's inbox. Attached to the email titled, "The plan after we're rid of E," was an Excel file. Exit plan, Amelia. My fingers flew over the trackpad. Opening the file. I live in spreadsheets. They are my native language. And this one was a masterpiece of cold-blooded narrative construction. It wasn't just numbers. It was a script, a tab labeled Media Narrative. I clicked it. It was a list of talking points, bulleted and precise. Amelia's addiction begins with small recreational crypto trades, becomes secretive hiding losses, chasing the thrill. The escalation begins borrowing from joint accounts without knowledge. The betrayal uses her data skills to access Nova Helix private funds, funnels them offshore. The discovery Cole, devastated, discovers the fraud. Try to handle it privately to save her. The divorce Cole is forced to file for divorce to protect his investors and the integrity of his company. It was all there. He was going to paint me as a gambling addict, a fraud, a common criminal. He would be the hero, the victimized husband who had to make the hard choice. The next tab was legal. It wasn't about our divorce. It was a list of his other lawyers, the ones who specialized in financial crimes. I cross-referenced one of the names with Sierra's inbox. My blood turned to ice. I found the email chain. Subject E, F, psychological profile. It was between Cole and a man named Marcus Thorne, his criminal defense attorney. Thorne wrote Cole, "To sell the unreliable addict narrative, we need to establish a pattern of instability. Can you point to any behavior, anything at all?" I watched the screen, my hand over my mouth, as I read Cole's reply. "Marcus, this is perfect. 3 years ago, her mother died. She was a wreck. We did grief counseling for maybe 10 or 12 sessions. I kept the records. She was depressed, anxious, not sleeping. She kept saying she felt paranoid that she was losing control. We can use that. We can use her own therapist. I couldn't breathe. I remembered those nights. I remembered weeping into his chest, thanking him for supporting me, for holding me while I felt like I was breaking apart. He wasn't holding me. He was taking notes. He was logging my grief as a future weapon. The lawyer's reply was swift and brutal. Excellent. Grief-induced paranoia and erratic behavior is a clean line to irrational financial decisions. We can easily find an expert witness to testify she fits the profile. If she tries to accuse you of anything, we'll paint her as delusional, an unreliable narrator of her own life. And then I saw the voice note. It was attached to an email from Cole to Sierra. Subject: Stop worrying. I clicked the file. It was downloaded. I put in my headphones, my hands shaking. His voice filled my ears, smooth and warm. The voice that once told me he loved me. He sounded like he was smiling. "Babe, you just need to trust the plan. She's not going to see it coming." A pause. I heard the clink of ice in a glass. "She's smart," he continued. "I'll give her that. She's brilliant with data. That's her whole identity. But that's her weakness, not her strength." I could hear Sierra's breathy voice, muffled. "What do you mean?" Cole laughed. It was a low, confident sound. "I mean, all we have to do is edit a few transaction logs, plant a few fake orders originating from her home IP address. We can even backdate them. By the time this thing blows up, the digital trail will lead right to her laptop, not mine. Think about it. When the SEC comes knocking, who are they going to believe, a column of data or a crying, unstable woman? He was going to use my greatest skill to destroy me. He was going to frame me, using my own language, my own tools. But he wasn't just relying on Sierra as a confidant. He was relying on her as a co-conspirator. I found the PR contracts, tucked in a folder labeled Brand Deals. It was a 6-figure contract with a crisis PR firm. The scope of work was explicit: a media tour for Sierra Blaine. She was being hired to tell her story, the story of a brave woman who sadly watched her new love, Cole, be financially and emotionally abused by his erratic wife. She would be paid to go on podcasts. She would be paid to give interviews, to cry on camera about how she tried to warn Cole about my spiraling crypto addiction. She wasn't just the other woman. She was a paid actress in the final scene of my execution. I went back to the bank logs from Helio Trust. With the rage clearing my vision, I saw the pattern instantly. It was a classic washing cycle. Money flowed from Nova Helix investor funds into the offshore account in my name. It sat there for 48 hours, just long enough to rest. Then it was wired out, not back to Nova Helix, but to a different shell corporation in the Caymans. From there, it was wired back into a private holding company in the U.S., a holding company I'd never seen before. I checked the registration. Owner Cole Rutherford. He was using my stolen identity as the tumbler. He was siphoning millions in investor funds, washing them through my forged accounts, and then depositing the clean, untraceable cash into his own personal pocket. When the regulators finally noticed the hole in the investor fund, their investigation would begin, and it would end at me. A sudden, cold thought hit me. Why hadn't I gotten any alerts? No bank calls, no credit hits. I logged into my real credit report, my personal, legitimate accounts. It was perfect, pristine, an 80-10 score. And that's when I understood the true, exquisite timing of his plan. These weren't public loans. They were private, offshore notes, time bombs. They wouldn't appear on any report. They were designed to exist in the dark, silent and waiting until he lit the fuse. The divorce. The divorce was the trigger. The generous settlement he was going to offer me. It wasn't about money. It was about a signature. He would have me sign a document where I, in exchange for my generous payout, would waive all future claims and, buried in the legal speak, acknowledge all personal debts as my own. The second my signature was dry on those divorce papers, I would be legally and financially severed from him. Then he would trigger the defaults. Then the investors would panic. Then the investigation would begin. Then the PR campaign would launch, painting me as the villain. He wouldn't just be divorcing me. He would be leaving me in a burning building, locking the door, and selling tickets to the inferno. I looked at the glowing blue light of the external hard drive. It was almost full of emails, spreadsheets, contracts, bank logs, and voice notes, full of the truth. He was right about one thing: people trust numbers. He was planning to kill my future, my name, and my freedom, all with a single signature. I ejected the hard drive. I shut down my laptop. The rage was gone. The shock was gone. All that was left was a cold, hard clarity, the clarity of a dataset that is finally clean. "You're going to kill me with my signature," I whispered to the empty room. I held the small, warm hard drive in my hand. "Fine," I said. "Let's see who the data kills." I didn't go home, not at first. I drove to the one place in the city that felt safe, a small, dark bar near Harbor Line's offices, a place where no one wore a $10,000 watch. I slid the external hard drive across the scratched wooden table to Nina. "You were right," I said, my voice low. "It's a 5-alarm fire." She'd just ordered a drink. She didn't touch it. She looked at the driver, then at my face. My hands were steady, but she'd known me for a decade. She could see the tectonic plates shifting behind my eyes. "Amelia, what is on this?" "His plan," I said. "And ours?" I told her everything: the password, the forged signatures, the Helio Trust account. The spreadsheet is titled, "Exit Plan, Amelia." The voice note about using my mother's death against me. Nina listened, her face going from pale to flushed with a rage I didn't even have the energy to feel. She sat in silence for a full minute after I finished. Then, she picked up her whiskey and downed half of it in one gulp. "Okay," she said, her voice a low growl. "I was wrong. This isn't a 5-alarm fire. This is a tactical nuclear strike. This isn't just infidelity. Amelia, this is aggravated identity theft and massive, premeditated financial crime. You are not his wife. You are his designated scapegoat. He has teams of lawyers. Nina, he said it himself. He'll bury me." "He'll bury you if you use a divorce lawyer," Nina said, already pulling out her phone. "You don't need someone who's good at splitting up furniture. You need a shark, the kind that eats other sharks." She typed for a moment. "Alexis Ward? Ward and Klein? Are they expensive? Yes. Terrifying. Absolutely. My old boss had to go up against her once. He said she doesn't just win. She disassembles. She's the person you call when the other guy has all the money. But you have the truth. And my God, Amelia, you have the truth on a 2-terabyte hard drive." The next morning, I was sitting in an office that felt more like a modern art installation than a law firm, 30 stories up, overlooking the entire city. The furniture was all gray steel and black leather. There were no family photos, no dying plants, just a single, massive, angry-looking painting on the wall. Alexis Ward was 45, give or take. Her black suit was cut with an almost architectural precision. Her hair was pulled back so tight it must have hurt. She walked into the room, and the temperature seemed to drop 5 degrees. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, did not offer comfort. They offered an assessment. I didn't cry. I didn't give her the story of my broken heart. I gave her the data. I placed the hard drive on her sterile glass desk. "My husband is Cole Rutherford," I said. "I believe he is using my stolen identity to commit securities fraud and money laundering. Everything you need to know is on this drive." She didn't call in an assistant. She plugged the drive into a secure sandbox terminal on her credenza. She stood, reading. She didn't make a sound. She read the emails. She opened the spreadsheet. She played the audio from the voice note, the volume low. Cole's voice filling the silent room. Who are they going to believe, a column of data, or a crying, unstable woman? She clicked the drive off. She sat. She steepled her fingers, her perfectly manicured nails tapping together once. "Ms. Flores Amelia, you've been through a significant trauma," she said. Her voice was smooth, cool, and contained zero pity. It was an observation, not a comfort. "I have one question for you. Do you want a fair divorce, or do you want justice?" "What's the difference?" "A fair divorce is easy," she said, leaning forward. "We use this data as leverage. We show his lawyers a fraction of what you have. We threaten exposure. He will pay you. He will pay you millions, maybe tens of millions, to sign a non-disclosure agreement and disappear. You will be very, very rich, but he will be free." I thought of the spreadsheet. Exit plan Amelia. I thought of him listening to me grieve my mother and taking notes. "He's not just doing this to me," I said, my voice hard. "He's stealing from his investors. He's building his entire empire on a lie. I don't want a payout. I want him to never be able to do this to another person, ever again." A tiny, razor-thin smile touched Alexis Ward's lips. It was gone in an instant. "Good," she said. "Fair is the minimum. Justice is infinitely more interesting." She pressed a button on her intercom. "Jonah, I need you." The door opened, and it wasn't another suit. It was a man in his late 20s, wearing jeans, a band t-shirt I didn't recognize, and an expensive blazer. He looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. "This is Jonah Reed," Alexis said. "He's our head of digital forensics. He's going to be your new best friend. Jonah, meet Amelia. Her husband is a rich, powerful, and colossal idiot." For the next hour, I explained the technical side, how I found the note, the password, the accounts. Jonah was practically vibrating. The note, "Where did you find it?" "In our home, on the floor of the main hallway. a common area, and the accounts. He opened them in my name, using my social security number, without my knowledge. Jonah grinned, a flash of pure caffeinated joy. Alexis, this isn't just a slam dunk. This is a clean room. We have a perfect legal chain of custody. She wasn't hacking her husband. She was a victim of identity theft who, using a clue found in good faith in a shared domicile, accessed her own fraudulent accounts to discover the scope of the crime against her. It's beautiful. It's legally airtight. So, the plan, Alexis said, standing and pacing. Jonah, I want every byte from that drive duplicated, hashed, and time-stamped. Put it on an air-gapped server. I want a copy that's admissible in federal court. If Cole Rutherford deletes, edits, or even thinks about changing a file, I want to be able to prove it. Already on it, Jonah said, his fingers flying on his own laptop. Next, Alexis continued, I just made a call. I have a former colleague at the SEC. I gave him a hypothetical overview. His hypothetical response was that this constitutes wire fraud, securities fraud, aggravated identity theft, and significant tax evasion. He also hypothetically mentioned that the agency loves a high-profile, high-arrogance case that they can win in the press. She turned to me. But he advised us to wait. Don't file yet. We gather everything. We build the perfect case, and we strike when he is at his most public. He's planning an event, I said, the pieces clicking into place. An investor grand gala at the Aurelia. He's going to announce a new fund. He's building his own guillotine, Alexis said, the cold smile returning. So, we formulate a two-pronged attack. Prong one, the legal, she said, holding up a finger. Jonah packages this data. We prepare identical, devastating briefs for the SEC, the IRS, and the district attorney's office. They will be filed simultaneously. Not just filed, they will be hand-delivered at the precise moment we give the signal. Prong two, the public. He wants to use a PR campaign to paint you as an unstable addict. We will use his own gala, his investors, his partners, his live stream to present the truth. We will use his own platform to execute him. Wait, Jonah said, his eyes wide, looking at his screen. Oh my God, he is an idiot. What? Alexis snapped. The password. Skylines. Queen 92. Jonah said, a note of reverence in his voice. He didn't just use it for his girlfriend's email and banking. He reused it. It's the admin password for one of Nova Helix's staging servers. The one that controls, oh, this is rich. The one that controls the back end for their main event AV system. The one at the Aurelia. He looked from Alexis to me, his grin feral. He didn't just give you the key to her email. He gave you the key to his entire kingdom. Can you access it? I asked. Access it, Amelia. I own it. I can control the lights, the mics, and the giant LED screen behind the stage. All from my phone. We don't have to hack anything. We just logged in. With the credentials he provided. Good, Alexis said, her voice final. We don't destroy. We don't break. We simply present. We present his own emails, his own voice notes, his own spreadsheet. She turned to me, her face losing all trace of humor. Now for the hardest part, your part. What do I have to do? You go home. You go back to that mansion. You walk into that cold, dead house, and you become the woman he thinks you are. You are the ballast. You are beige. You are the needy, unstable wife. You must be small, and sad, and broken. I don't think I can. You have to, Alexis said, her voice a steel bar. You cannot warn him. You cannot let him see the anger. You cannot let him suspect, even for a second, that you are anything other than a victim he is about to dispose of. He must believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that he has won. She walked me to the door. The blow only lands if he's standing on top of the world. Let him climb. Amelia, let him get right to the top. So arrogant he can't see the drop. Let him put the noose around his own neck. We'll just be the ones to pull the lever. Can you do that? I thought of the shattered whiskey glass, I thought of the man I used to love, the man who was planning to bury me. Yes, I said. I can. I walked back into the Highland Ridge mansion that night. The house was silent, cold. The marble floor of the foyer still held the scattered shards of the whiskey glass he had thrown, the first act of my performance. I did not call the cleaning service. I went to the utility closet, got the dustpan and brush, and I kneeled on the floor. I picked up every single piece of broken glass, my hands steady, methodical. I was not a grieving wife. I was a technician cleaning a data-corrupted drive. Preparing it for a wipe, I tidied the living room. I fluffed the cushions. I ran the dishwasher. I became, in every action, the beige woman he had described. That night, I made roast chicken, his favorite, the one I used to make in our tiny apartment when a celebration meant we'd paid the rent. I set the table for two. He came home just after 9. I heard his key in the lock, the heavy sigh as he dropped his briefcase. He walked into the kitchen, stopped, and stared at the table. He was surprised. He said, his voice wary. He smelled like her, a cloying, synthetic vanilla and coconut, the scent of her Instagram feed. You're home, I said, my voice soft, a little broken. Just as Alexis had instructed, I made dinner. He loosened his tie, his eyes scanning me, looking for the trap. He found none, just his supportive wife. He let out a small, condescending laugh. Wow, roast chicken. Smells nostalgic. Good, like when we were poor and you were still trying. The casual cruelty of it was a physical jab. I let it land. I absorbed it. Be small. Be broken. You've been working so hard, I murmured, not looking at him. I thought you'd be hungry. Can I get you a drink? Yeah, whiskey. The good stuff, he said, already moving to the living room, unbuttoning his cuffs. He tossed his suit jacket, a $20,000 garment, over the back of a leather chair. I walked to the bar. I poured his drink. My hands were perfectly still. I walked past the chair where his jacket was slung. His back was to me. He was looking out the glass wall at the city lights, the kingdom he thought he'd built. I put my left hand on the jacket, a gesture of a wife about to hang it up. With my right hand, I slid my secondary phone, a small, older model, scrubbed clean from my apron pocket. I pressed the record button on the voice memo app. I slipped it, screen dark, into the jacket's deep inner breast pocket. Here you go, I said, handing him the whiskey. I then carefully, dutifully, picked up his jacket and walked it to the hall closet, hanging it up. The microphone was now live. We ate in near silence. He ate greedily, the king in his castle, and I picked at my food, the perfect picture of a woman with a broken heart and no appetite. The performance lasted for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of hell, of living with the man who was actively plotting my destruction. I was the perfect ghost, haunting the edges of his new, shiny life. Then, he delivered the next part of the script, his script. He found me on the patio, reading a book I wasn't comprehending. He had a manila folder in his hand. It was thinner than the one from the gala. He sat down, putting on an air of weary paternal kindness. It was a mask he wore well. He said, sliding the folder onto the table. We need to talk. That night at the Aurelia, it was messy. It was for the investors, for the brand. It wasn't how I wanted to do this. I looked at him, my eyes wide, waiting. Look, he said, tapping the folder. I've had my lawyer draw up a softer agreement, a real separation. I'm being more than fair. I'm leaving you a significant block of pre-IPO shares in the new fund, enough to make you a very, very wealthy woman. I looked at the folder, the generous offer, the one, as Alexis had predicted, would contain the legal language that acknowledged all personal debts as my own, waiving all future claims, the signature that would set his plan in motion. I just want this to be quiet, he said, his voice a velvety lie. No drama. We just sign, part as friends, and everyone wins. This was my cue. I let my breath hitch. I let my lower lip tremble. I looked at the papers, then at his face, and I let the tears come. They weren't entirely fake. They were tears of rage, but he saw them as tears of weakness. "Cole," I whispered, the word cracking perfectly. "Just like that. All these years, are you really leaving me for her?" I let my voice rise, just a fraction. "Is that it? Am I just not what you want anymore?" I was playing the exact role he'd cast me in, the needy, unstable wife. He sighed. It was a heavy, theatrical sound, the sound of a man burdened by a woman's emotions. He made a fatal mistake. He thought he was winning. He moved his chair closer and, with a move of devastating condescension, he put his arm around my shoulder. Come on," he said, his voice dropping to that honest tone, the one he used to sell bad ideas. "Let's be adults. This isn't about good or bad. You're not suited for this life anymore, this world. I need a partner who can play at this level. You're still the girl from Ohio." I looked up at him, my eyes wet. "So it is her." He hesitated, then gave up the pretense. He leaned back, a cold finality in his eyes. "Yes, it is. I'm not going to lie to you anymore." He stood up, looking down at me, the broken, pathetic wife. "You just don't fit. You're not built for this. And you know you're not as hot as Sierra. It's just a different league." It was the second time he'd said it, the line that was supposed to be my execution. I let my head drop. I let my shoulders shake. I let him see me shatter. "Thank you," I thought, as he walked away, victorious. "Thank you for the opening clip." That night, while he slept in his room, I was in my study. The door locked. I wasn't crying. I was logged in. Skyline's Queen 92. I was looking forward to the gala. I knew it was coming, and I found it. Not in his email, in hers. She was forwarded on an email chain from Cole's new PR team. Subject run of show. Investor Grand Gala. It was all there. The date, the time, the Aurelia, and the detailed timeline. 7:15 p.m. Investor, welcome. 7:30 p.m. Cole Rutherford. Keynote, the New Horizon Fund, 7:45 p.m. A personal note. Welcoming Sierra Blaine as a new partner in life and business. He wasn't just divorcing me, he was replacing me, on a stage, in front of his entire world. He was going to humiliate me at that party, and then, a few months later, use my instability to frame me for his own crimes. I picked up my clean phone. I texted Alexis and Jonah. "I have a target. It's the Investor Grand Gala. He's planning to announce Sierra on stage." Alexis's reply was instant. "Of course he is. He's a narcissist. He can't resist a monologue." "Jonah, the AV plan is a go. Amelia, you're in my office tomorrow, 9 a.m. We practice." Jonah's office wasn't an office. It was a command center, a dark room, lit only by the glow of a dozen screens. He had the complete architectural and network schematic of the Aurelia Ballroom on a massive monitor. "He just handed us the gun, the bullet, and the firing range," Jonah said, handing me a new phone case. It was black, simple, slightly thicker than my usual one. "This is a custom-built microcontroller," he explained, his voice buzzing with excitement. "It's paired to a clean phone I've prepared for you. The moment you're inside the ballroom's network footprint, it will auto-connect to their Wi-Fi. We already have the credentials. Thanks to Cole's password reuse, we will have a secure tunnel logged into the main AV server. You won't have to type a thing." He showed me the phone. "Alexis and I will be in a van 2 blocks away," watching the live stream. When Cole starts his personal note, I will send a notification to this phone. It will look like a low battery warning. You will tap it. It will open a custom app I built. It looks like a simple diagnostic tool. There is one button. It says, "Run System Check." You will press that button. What does it do? It sends the payload, a single packet of code. It will override the technician's feed, cut the live broadcast, and take over every screen and speaker in that ballroom. It will then broadcast the video file we are preloading onto their server as we speak. The video, I said, thinking of the voice notes, the spreadsheet, the forged signatures. The video, he confirmed. Now, practice. From the moment the notification hits to the moment you press that button, you have less than 15 seconds. Let's do it. I took the phone. The notification popped up. I swiped. The app opened. I pressed the button. 5.2 seconds, he said. Again. I did it again. 4.7. Again. 4.3. He watched me, a small, impressed smile on his face. Your hands aren't shaking. I looked at the screen, at the benign-looking button. I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't even angry anymore. The emotion had been burned away, leaving something cold and clean. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't revenge. I was a data analyst. I was debugging a catastrophic system failure. The system was my life, the bug was my husband, and I was about to run the patch. It's just logic, I said. He gave me the variable. I'm just executing the function. The plan was set. The hardware was tested. The date was locked. I was 7 days out from the Investor Grand Gala, living in the skin of the broken wife, a performance that was becoming sickeningly easy. I was counting down the hours, and then a new variable entered the equation, one I had not, and could not, have predicted: my personal clean phone. The one Alexis used for secure communication buzzed. It wasn't from Alexis or Jonah. It was an unknown number, a single text message. We need to talk. Alone. No Cole. SS. Sierra. My blood ran cold. How had she gotten this number? I'd gotten it from Cole's records. A private number he had for her. But how had she found me? I realized, with a jolt, that Cole's files would contain all my personal information, too. She had access to the same well of data. I called Alexis. She's reaching out. What should I do? She's panicking, Alexis said, her voice sharp. No hesitation. The gala is a week away. He's finalizing his narrative. That means he's finalizing her narrative, too. She's smart enough to be scared. Meet her. But you are not Amelia Flores. The wife? You are a data collector. You listen. You do not offer. You do not promise. You just listen. And you record. Where? Public, but private. A place with no cameras, but lots of witnesses. I texted back, the coffee shop on Elm. 1 hour. I see anyone else. I walk. She replied instantly, okay. The cafe was a quiet, dimly lit place that smelled of burnt coffee and old books. I took a booth in the back corner, facing the door, just as Alexis had instructed. I had my phone on the table, already recording audio. She came in. It took me a full second to recognize her. The woman who walked through the door was not Sierra Blaine Fitt. The goddess from the yachts, the vixen from the gala, was gone. This woman was wearing a black baseball cap pulled low, no makeup, and a gray hoodie that swallowed her. Her face was pale, blotchy, and her eyes were red-rimmed and darting, checking every corner of the cafe. She looked exhausted. She looked like I had felt before I found the password. She slid into the booth opposite me. She didn't order anything. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. Her voice wasn't the high, breathy thing I'd heard on Instagram. It was low, raspy. I said nothing. I just watched her. "He's cutting me out," she said, her voice cracking. "He's changing the plan." I kept my face a mask of neutral curiosity. "He came to me 2 days ago," she said, her hands twisting in her lap. "He said to protect my brand. He was insulating me. That's the word he used. Insulating. He's moving all the offshore accounts, the ones he had me involved in. He's taking my name off everything. He said it was to keep me safe if the Amelia thing got messy." "And you don't believe him," I stated. It wasn't a question. "He's not protecting me," she hissed, a flash of the woman from the emails returning. "He's scrubbing me as a witness. He's erasing his connection to me, just like he's erasing you." She finally looked up at me, her eyes desperate. "If the SEC looks into this, if they find those PR contracts, I signed the ones where I agreed to talk about you. The ones where you were paid to call me a crypto addict. I finished for her, my voice like ice. Her head snapped back, as if I'd slapped her. You know, I know everything, Sierra. I know about the Helio Trust account. I know about the 10% commission you got on the first $2 million he washed through the Amelia account. I know about the ballast. I know about the beige wife. I know about the exit plan. She went completely, deathly pale. The two victims' narrative dissolved in the air between us. This wasn't a meeting of the sisterhood. This was a standoff. I was here with a nuclear arsenal, and she had just realized her tiny pistol was empty. He used me, she whispered. A last-ditch attempt at victimhood. He paid you, I corrected. He paid you very well to help him destroy me. The only problem is, he's a narcissist, and you were just another disposable part of his plan. You were the after, and now he's moving on to his after, and he needs to clean up his loose ends. You and I, we're the loose ends. She stared at me, her mind clearly racing, recalculating. She was not a dumb blonde. She was a cunning, selfish woman who had been outmaneuvered by a bigger shark, and she knew it. Okay, she said, her voice changing again, becoming hard, transactional. Okay, so he's a monster, and he's going to throw us both in the fire. You're smart. You found all that. You must have a plan. You're not just going to let him do it. My plan doesn't include you, Sierra. It should, she said, leaning forward, her eyes bright and intense. Because you're smart. But I'm not stupid. I knew he was slippery. I knew he'd turn on me, just like he turned on you. She reached into the pocket of her hoodie. She didn't pull out a phone. She pulled out a tiny black, credit card-sized USB drive. She placed it on the table between us. What's that? Insurance, she said, a small, triumphant smirk on her face. I recorded him, the last 4 months, every phone call he made from my car, every late-night conversation in my condo when he was drunk, boasting about his plan. It's all there. My heart hammered in my chest. This was the variable. It's all there, she repeated. Cole, in his own voice, explaining the entire plot, how he was using the forged accounts, how he was going to let Amelia take the fall, how he was going to use your mother's therapy sessions to paint you as unstable. He said, she's a data analyst. She'll look guilty as hell. It's all on here. She nudged the drive with one finger. You're smart, Amelia. But the feds are still feds. Your clean room evidence is good. But this is a smoking gun. This is a confession. What do you want? I asked, my voice flat. I want out. You're going to expose him. I know you are. When you do, you make sure my name is not on that presentation. You use your data skills, or whatever, to edit me out of the story. You make it look like I was just another victim, just like you. You don't mention the commissions. You don't mention the PR contracts. In exchange, I give you this. I give you the one thing that guarantees he goes to prison, and we walk. I looked at the drive. I looked at her. She was a snake, offering me a different, more potent apple. I slid my phone across the table, the recording app still open. I just called my lawyer. She's been listening to this entire conversation. What's your answer? Alexis? Sierra's face contorted in panic. She hadn't seen that coming. Alexis's voice, tinny and cold, came through the speaker. Ms. Blaine, you have just admitted to being a co-conspirator in a multi-million-dollar fraud and to withholding evidence. You are not in a position to negotiate. I'll destroy it, Sierra hissed, grabbing for the drive. Go ahead, Alexis said, bored. You'll still be a co-conspirator. You'll just be one with no leverage. Or, you can do exactly as we say. You will email a copy of that recording right now to an address Ms. Flores provides. My forensics expert will verify it. If it is authentic, we will take your cooperation into consideration. That's not a deal, Sierra said, panicked. It's the only one you're getting, Alexis replied. You can either be our supplemental evidence, or you can be his co-defendant. Your choice. Sierra stared at the phone. The fight drained out of her. She was trapped. I slid a napkin across the table, wrote down a temporary anonymous email address I'd created. Send it. She pulled out her own phone, her fingers flying. A moment later, she pushed the USB drive back to me. The file is too big for email. This is the only copy. Take it. Just bury him. He deserves it. I took the drive. I stood up. What about me? She whispered, looking small again. Stop checking your bank account, I said, and don't leave town. I walked straight to Jonah's office. He took the drive from me with a pair of tweezers, like it was a biohazard, and plugged it into his terminal. He and Alexis stood over it. 10 minutes later, Jonah looked up, his face pale. She wasn't lying. It's all here. It's a full confession. He's done. He's absolutely done. Good, Alexis said. Add the best clips to the presentation. The therapy part, the data analyst part. This moves us from indictment to execution. Amelia, go home. Stick to the plan. I went home, but I had Skyline's Queen 92. I had to know. I logged into her email. The email I just forced her to send the audio from was sitting in her sent folder, but right below it, there was a new draft, a new email, addressed to Cole. I clicked it. Subject Gala. Hey baby, just practicing my surprised face for when you call me up on stage. Can't wait. I'm ready for that podcast tour, too. I've been working on my sad voice to talk about what that crazy bitch Amelia did. I'll cry just enough. I promise. You were so smart to figure her out. Love you. S. My hand tightened on the mouse. She was still playing. She had just given me the weapon to destroy him. In the next breath, she was reaffirming her loyalty to him, ready to play her part in the plan to destroy me. She was trying to play both sides, betting that whichever one of us won, she could still come out on top. I looked at her glossy, smiling avatar. She thought she was so smart. You're a great actress, Sierra, I whispered to the screen. But you're a terrible analyst. She hadn't understood. This was never a negotiation. It was just a data acquisition. And I now had everything. I wasn't going to edit her out. I wasn't going to save her. I was going to add her. I would add her confession, and I would add her email to Cole. At the gala, I wouldn't just be exposing him, I'd be exposing them both. They built their partnership on my ballast. It was time to see them sink together. The Aurelia is even more obscene the second time around. Tonight, for the Investor Grand Gala. It's not just a party, it's a coronation. The crystal chandeliers are so bright they hurt my eyes. The air is thick with the smell of expensive perfume and lobster canapes. A massive 20-foot-tall backdrop with the Nova Helix logo, a stylized, aggressive star, serves as a secular altar. This is Cole's church, and tonight, all his disciples are here. Reporters from every major financial network line the entrance, their cameras hot. The event is being live-streamed on a major business channel. Alexis confirmed it. Everything that happens tonight will be public record. Behind the main stage, the massive LED screen is currently displaying a hypnotic, swirling blue and silver graphic. The Nova Helix brand colors. I arrive alone, via a rideshare. The doorman looks me up and down, his gaze flickering with confusion when I give my name. Amelia Flores. I am still. For a few more hours. Mrs. Rutherford. I am invisible, and I planned it that way. I am not wearing a glittering gown. I am in a simple, perfectly tailored, long-sleeved black dress. It's elegant, severe, and forgettable. I am not wearing the diamond necklace Cole bought me last year. It's in a safe deposit box, and it belongs to Alexis now. I am only wearing the small, pearl drop earrings my mother left me. They are my only armor. I am exactly what they expect the beige wife, the background character, the pale shadow he is about to step out of. I drift through the crowd, and I am not looking at the people. I am looking at technology. I see the main AV booth in the back corner, a nest of technicians and glowing screens. I spot the ceiling-mounted routers, exactly where Jonah's schematics said they would be. I feel the comfortable, solid weight of my clutch in my hand. Inside it, the clean phone, fitted with Jonah's custom case, is asleep, waiting. I am in the footprint, I am on the network. Then, a commotion at the door. The cameras flash in a frenzy. A wall of white light. She has arrived. Sierra Blaine does not walk in. She makes an entrance. A bright red sports car, a model I don't even recognize, is pulled right up to the front doors. The MC for the live stream, a woman I recognize from the 6 o'clock business report, speaks in a hushed, excited voice. And here she is with a special guest, entrepreneur and wellness icon, Sierra Blaine. Sierra steps out. She is in a dress that is less a dress and more a rumor, a cascade of silver sequins that seems to defy gravity. She is dazzling. She is everything I am not. She is an event. She poses for the cameras, her hand on her hip, her smile a high-voltage weapon. She is here to be crowned. I watch her, and I feel nothing, not jealousy, not anger, just pity. She has no idea she's walking to her own execution. 2. The lights dim. The music swells. A spotlight hits the stage. Cole walks out to a thunderous, almost deafening, round of applause. He is radiant. He is at the absolute peak of his power. He beams, holding his hands up to quiet the room. "Friends," he shouts, his voice booming, full of engineered humility. "Investors, partners, what a journey, what a ride." He begins his speech, the one I've heard him practice, the humble origin story, the version that erases me completely. He talks about vision, he talks about courage, and then he pivots. The tone shifts. It becomes somber, serious. "But vision isn't enough," he says, pacing the stage. "Courage means making hard choices. It means recognizing the risks. And sometimes," he sighs, "the biggest risk isn't in the market, it's in your own life." The room is silent. He has them. It's the risk of sharing your life with someone who doesn't understand the vision, someone who isn't built for the same altitude. He is painting his masterpiece, the story of the brilliant man, held back by the fearful, inadequate wife. The script from Exit Plan Amelia is coming to life, right in front of me. He stops pacing. He looks out, his eyes scanning the crowd, the spotlight following his gaze. He finds me. He pins me with the light, just like he did at the last party, and he smiles. It is a cold, reptilian smile, full of pity and power. "My wife, Amelia, is here tonight," he says. The cameras turn. I am a deer in the headlights, just as he planned. "Amelia," he says, his voice dripping with false, sad sincerity, "is a part of my past, a past I'm grateful for, but we all know, in this world, in this new economy, if you don't evolve, you get left behind." A few people laugh, a nervous, gulping sound. "And not everyone," he continues, his voice rising, "is born to shine." He turns, a grand, sweeping gesture of his arm, toward the front table, where Sierra is sitting, rapt. Not everyone is built to be a star, like Sierra. It is a public execution. The humiliation is so total, so complete, that people are actually wincing. Phones are up. They are recording my face, live tweeting my demise. This is it. This is the moment. He thinks he's won, but he's not done. Oh, he's never done. "Transparency," he suddenly shouts, as if the word just occurred to him. That is the core of Nova Helix, honesty. So I want to be honest with all of you. He reaches into his jacket pocket. He pulls out a folded sheaf of documents, the divorce papers, the real ones, the ones he'd been planning to serve me with, the ones that would have been my legal death warrant. "Amelia and I," he says, holding up the papers for the cameras, "have amicably decided to part ways. It's time for a new beginning, for both of us. And I, of course, will be generous." He smiles, the benevolent king. "I will ensure she is taken care of, as she moves on to a simpler life." A simpler life. He's painting me as a simpleton he is paying off. The narrative is complete. So, he says, his voice bright, in the spirit of new beginnings, and to show you all that there are no hard feelings, Amelia. Come on up. Let's sign this, right here, right now, and start our new chapters. A grotesque, smiling woman I vaguely recognize as an event planner is suddenly at his side, holding a gold-plated pen on a velvet cushion. The MC of the live stream is whispering into her mic. A truly shocking, incredibly moving moment of transparency from Cole Rutherford. The cameras are all on me. The entire room is waiting for the tears, for the collapse, for the drama. I stand up. My legs are steady. I walk the aisle. My pearls luminous in the spotlight. My black dress a void. I climb the 2 steps to the stage. I face him. Cole, I whisper, my voice trembling just enough. I am the unstable, broken woman. It's okay, Em, he says, his voice a balm of poison, patting my arm for the cameras. It's for the best. He hands me the papers. He hands me the pen. I look down at the top page. Petition for dissolution of marriage. I see the clauses, the ones I've memorized. The ones that would have me assume all personal debts, the ones that would have made me a criminal. My hand shakes. It is the only part of me that is not acting. A single hot tear of pure distilled rage rolls down my cheek. He sees it. He mistakes it for sorrow. He smiles, a tiny, private, triumphant smile. Just for me. He's won. I take the pen. I flip to the last page. I sign my name. Amelia Flores. I flip. I signed. I flip. I signed. I do not read. I just execute. I sign the last page. I click the pen closed. I stack the papers neatly. I hand the folder and the pen back to him. Thank you, Cole, I say, my voice just loud enough for his microphone to catch it. Thank you for keeping everything so clear, right here on paper. He is confused. The line wasn't in his script, but he takes the folder. He's done. He turns from me, dismissing me. He holds the signed divorce papers aloft to the crowd, a conquering hero holding the head of his enemy. A new beginning, he shouts. The crowd roars. The applause is deafening. The flashes are blinding. In his moment of absolute, complete, and total victory, I take one small step back. I am out of the spotlight. I am in the shadows. My hand, the one that was just shaking with grief, is now perfectly steady. It slips into my clutch. My thumb finds the cool glass of the phone. I wake the screen. In my pocket, I feel the device vibrate once. Jonah's signal. Cole has just begun his personal note. I see the fake low battery notification. My thumb moves. I swipe. The app opens. The simple black screen. The single, benign button. Run system check. Cole turns to the front row, his arms open. And now I'd like to welcome the future, a new partner in life and in business. Sierra Blaine. The music swells. The spotlight swings to a beaming Sierra. My thumb presses the button. My thumb presses the button. The connection is instantaneous. 2 blocks away, in a nondescript van, I know Jonah's hand is hitting his own keyboard, releasing the digital packages, identical, encrypted, and devastating. One for the SEC, one for the IRS, one for the district attorney, all time-stamped to this exact second. On the stage, the effect is immediate. The triumphant, swelling orchestral music that was meant to welcome Sierra cuts off. It doesn't fade. It's a clean, digital decapitation. Cole's microphone, which he was using to say her name, dies with a sharp pop. The entire ballroom is plunged into a sudden, shocking, heavy silence. On the massive 60-foot LED screen behind Cole, the swirling blue and silver Nova Helix logo freezes. It flickers once. It goes black. Cole stops. He looks confused. He's a puppet whose strings have just been cut. He taps the dead microphone, a look of profound irritation on his face. "Mike," he says, his voice small, unamplified. Sierra is frozen, halfway between her table and the stage, her brilliant smile curdling into a mask of confusion. The room is silent for 1, 2, 3 seconds, then the screens flash back to life. Not with the Nova Helix logo, they are pure black, and then, in stark white, sans serif font, 50 feet high, 5 words appear. This is the truth about Cole Rutherford. A collective, audible gasp sucks the air from the room. It's not a laugh, it's a sound of fear. Cole's face, illuminated by the glow, turns ashen. "What is this? Shut this down, Tech," he's yelling. But no one can hear him. The screen changes. It's an Instagram direct message. Sierra's profile picture next to his. And then, his voice. Not his stage voice, his real voice. From the audio file I pulled from the DM. Casual, arrogant, cruel. "Babe," his voice booms, filling the entire, cavernous hall. "Stuck at another one of these charity things with the ballast. When this thing blows, we're pinning it all on her." "Babe." The ballast echoes. I can see men in $1,000 suits turning to look at each other. The screen changes. It becomes my world. A spreadsheet. Exit plan, Amelia. XLSX. Jonah has animated it. It's a presentation. My presentation. Red boxes appear, highlighting the cells, the media narrative wife's crypto addiction, the legal strategy used therapy sessions to prove instability, the timeline trigger. Heliotrust default. E. Takes the fall. This is a lie. Cole is screaming, his face purple. This is a fabrication. The screen changes. A split screen. On the left, one of the forged loan documents from Heliotrust, with the digital signature, Amelia Flores. On the right, our marriage certificate, with my real, wet ink signature. Jonah has overlaid them. A flashing red graphic appears. Signature mismatch fraud detected. A new window opens. A video file. It's Sierra. It's the recording from the USB drive. She's in her condo, no makeup, her voice shaking, her face blotchy with panic. He told me it was just to insulate the fund." Her voice, amplified, cracks with fear. "He said the plan was always to let Amelia take the fall. He said she was unstable, and that he'd use her therapy sessions about her mom's death to prove it." The screen cuts to black, a new audio file. This one is Cole, the voice note he left for Sierra. "She's smart," his voice sneers. The voice that once told me he loved me. "Brilliant with data, but that's her weakness. Who are they going to believe, a column of data or a crying, unstable woman?" And then, the final slide. Jonah's masterpiece. It's a simple, devastating flowchart. He's built it to look exactly like the Nova Helix branding. A box on the left. Investor funds Nova Helix. An arrow points to a box in the middle. Offshore account forged Amelia Flores. An arrow points to a new box, Cayman Shell Corp. And a final, bold red arrow points to the last box, Cole Rutherford, personal holding. He hadn't just been planning to frame me. He had been actively stealing, washing millions of investor dollars through my stolen identity. The room explodes. "You son of a bitch!" A large man in the front row, one of his biggest investors, scrambles to his feet, his face a mask of purple rage. "You used your wife as a shield. You washed my money." It's a wave. It's chaos. Men and women are on their feet, shouting, not at me, at him. People are running for the exits. They are screaming into their phones. Sell Nova Helix. Sell everything. Get me my lawyer, now." The live stream. I glance at the tech booth. The technician is frozen, his hands in the air. The camera operators are panning wildly, capturing the chaos, but the red light is still on. Jonah hasn't just hijacked the room, he's hijacked the broadcast. Hundreds of thousands of people are watching this live, and then, the pings. A high-pitched ping from a phone, then another, then a chorus. Every phone in the room, all at once. A man near me, his face pale, reads his screen aloud, his voice hollow. "Breaking news: SEC launches immediate, full-scale investigation into Nova Helix Capital and founder Cole Rutherford, citing overwhelming and precise evidence of securities fraud, embezzlement, and aggravated identity theft. Alexis's leak. It's done. No. Cole is screaming, a raw animal sound, pulling at his perfect hair. This is a hack. It's a deepfake. She did this, that bitch. She faked all of it. As if on cue, the screen changes one last time. It's a screenshot, an email, the one from Cole to his lawyer, the one about my mother's death. Jonah has highlighted the header, the originating IP address, the server timestamp, irrefutable. And beneath it, the final text. In the same cold white font, all documents, audio, and logs have been filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Internal Revenue Service, and the District Attorney's Office. This is not a negotiation. This is a declaration. The screens go black. The house lights, harsh and fluorescent, slam on, revealing the carnage. I look at Sierra. She has physically collapsed into her chair, her face a grotesque painting of running mascara and terror. She is no longer an influencer, a reporter. The one from the live stream has recovered. She shoves her microphone, now live, into Sierra's weeping face. Sierra, did you know about this? Are you a co-conspirator? You just confessed to millions of viewers. Sierra just sobs, a horrible, animal sound. And Cole, he's on the stage, his suit jacket torn, his face vacant with shock. He is spinning in a circle, looking for the source of the attack. His eyes found a spot in the shadows where I was standing, but I am not there. I am already at the bottom of the stage steps. I am already at the edge of the ballroom, in the chaos, in the shouting, in the distant, growing wail of sirens. No one is looking at the beige wife. I am invisible, and invisibility, I've learned, is a superpower. I walk past the screaming investor. I walk past the weeping mistress. I walk past the man who tried to destroy me. I don't run. I walk. I walk out of the ballroom. I cross the opulent, gilded lobby. The sound of his empire collapsing is a roar at my back. The sound of chairs breaking. The sound of men screaming about their money. I push open the heavy glass doors. The cold night air of Westbridge hits my face. It's clean. I'm breathing. My phone, the other phone, my real phone, vibrates in my pocket. A text from Alexis. It's done. You are clear. Do not speak to the press. Go home. Another text. Nina. The entire internet is exploding. The entire. You did it. I'm buying you a bottle of something very, very expensive. I turn the ringer off. I slide the phone back into my pocket. I stand on the curb as the first police car, its lights flashing red and blue across my face. Screams past me and pulls up to the valet stand. I look up at the dark sky, past the tall buildings. There is no grand speech. There are no more tears. It is just quiet. A single thought passes through my mind. Clear as the night air. He said I wasn't as hot as her. Maybe he was right. She was the firework, but I was the data, and I was the only one who knew how to burn his entire world to the ground with nothing but a password. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you're tuning in from. Please, drop a comment below. Let's chat about it. And if you enjoyed this, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to Zoe Revenge Stories, like this video, and maybe even hit that hype button so more people can hear this.